Here's a thin film that shimmers like a candy wrapper. It would rustle gently in my hand, somewhat sturdy, but eventually vanish into the soil. This is a piece of biodegradable plastic made from sugar rings. Yes, sugar. My teammate and I made it in the lab. We call it a sweet solution to plastic pollution. Sweet? Literally and metaphorically. But how does this seemingly delicate plastic correlate to something as massive and urgent as plastic pollution? We have long been told that plastic pollution is a global concern, especially single-use plastics that significantly harm the environment. But the harsh truth is that recycling fails to keep up. Consider this. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development stated in 2022 that the current plastics life cycle is far from circular, with just 9% of plastic waste actually recycled after losses. Even worse, without additional action, annual plastics production, use, and waste generation are projected to increase by 70% in 2040 compared to 2020. This made me, a perfectionist, determined to develop a perfect, permanent solution. Because no matter how efficient recycling becomes, it will always generate waste. But if we could make all materials truly biodegradable, we would completely tackle the problem. That's where polylactic acid, PLA, comes in. Unlike conventional plastics, this biodegradable material, made from sugarcane or cornstarch, breaks down into carbon dioxide and water in about 60 days under specific conditions. That seemed promising and could possibly be a key part of the perfect solution. Now, please take a moment to look around you and find something made from plastic. It can be a water bottle, can be a package, or whatever. 现在我希望请大家找一个您身边的塑料制品，比如说瓶子和包装盒之类的，可以告诉我一下它具体是什么塑料材质制成的吗？比如说 PET。Let's then look at the progression of plastics used in everyday life. Initially, most straws and disposable items from the 1960s to 1990s were made from pure plastics such as PET, PP, and PE. More recently, particularly since the early 2000s, there was a shift toward biodegradable plastics like PLA. After that, with the raising awareness of environmental protection, paper materials produced from plants, like coffee cups made from corn husks, have gradually become more widely used in production. These developments fueled my desire to delve deeper into how materials can be better designed for sustainability. In March of 2014, coincidentally, my classmate Albert suggested that we could collaborate on the project investigating the incorporation of cyclodextrins, which are ring-shaped molecules made of glucose, into PLA. This was exactly the kind of perfect solution I've been dreaming about. The idea was to create a new kind of sustainable plastic with improved mechanical properties and biodegradability by utilizing the special structure of cyclodextrins. That whole week, I caught myself smiling at random moments, mentally rehearsing the experiments. In July, we traveled to Suzhou for professional experiments. My suitcase bulged with uncontrollable eagerness and high hopes. In the lab, the first thin film that appeared before my eyes was glimmering under the sun. And this was the one shown at the very beginning of the speech. I completely lost my breath at the moment. Dust swirled away as if clearing a path for it. And I exclaimed that it was truly worth all the team's efforts. Our work have paved the way for cutting-edge invention. Our mentor, Albert, and I stood in awe, our eyes widened. We had never seen this kind of brand new plastic before. It was right before our eyes, and we had made it with our own hands. We excitedly waved the plastic film in the air, listening to the cheerful sound as it cut through the breeze. However, the excitement soon faded. The texture of the film was different from what we expected. The sample felt rough, with small, tangible particles attached to the surface. It lacked the transparency required for many practical uses. Most importantly, although there was an optimal balance point between its biodegradability and mechanical properties, the incorporation did not significantly enhance its overall performance. In short, the sample was far from being applied in real life. This imperfection struck me hard. I hesitated and was consistently questioning myself. Was it meaningful to spend such efforts and pin our hope on a piece of thin film that we are not certain about? My mentor reassured me, "Look, you've tried your best. After all, you're just high school students. This is your first experience in this field, and the first time of failure does not indicate that the research isn't worth doing." I whispered this quietly, again and again, as if saying enough could mend the crack in my shaky confidence. And maybe it did, at least enough to keep me from giving up. But panic and depression set in, and I was still stepping beside the edges of disappointment, like someone who had learned to swim just enough not to drown, but hadn't figured out which shore to head towards. On the plane back home, I stared at the dim window as clouds drifted by like discarded plastic bags. Later that night, lying on my bed, my face lit up by my laptop screen. I scrolled through papers and stories of other people's attempts at sustainable plastics. I tried to accept my imperfection, at least on the surface. But deep inside, I was still searching for something more. I wasn't entirely content with just moving on. And then, somewhere between reading and half dreaming, I stumbled across a line of poetry. "The wound is the place where the light enters you." Even now, I still remember the silence that followed. It didn't feel empty. It felt like something had quietly opened inside me, as if a window had been cracked open in a room I hadn't realized was stuffy. If the invention wasn't perfect, maybe it did not need to be. Maybe it wasn't about fixing everything. Maybe it was about saying something that needed to be said, even if imperfectly. It is imperfection that allows things to grow into something we couldn't have planned. And that's when I thought of poetry. From my own experience, I've written Chinese poetry for quite a while, mostly mimicking the famous ones that foster deep thinking and have profound connotations. I wrote, "Though I hardly decompose, in verse I find repose." Was it a perfect poem? Of course not. But perfection wasn't the point. Even clumsy words can ignite change. That's how my individual project, Plastic Long Live, began, where environmental awareness and the art of poetry were combined, aiming to demonstrate plastic's roles within the society and the environment, with plastic no longer a piece of discarded rubbish, but the carrier of emotion. When writing for the exhibition, I was swallowed into my own mind. A plastic bag caught in a tree. A sentence someone said in passing. These scenes grabbed me. The world around me blurred. I wanted to write something eye-catching, but feared abstract words might detach from the reality. I urged to speak for plastic pollution issue and advocate for broader attention, while fearing of sounding empty. Those poems won't necessarily save the world, but I want to say what I could say. So, how does the exhibition look like? A selection of my original poems were printed and displayed on large exhibition panels, forming the core visual presentation. In the meantime, another portion of the poetry with thematic prompts and guiding phrases was handwritten using traditional Chinese calligraphy and hung beside the panels. While poetry and plastic seemed to be far apart, the collision between them still could generate interesting results. In Plastic Long Live, I explored the intersection of poetry and plastic, embracing the idea that even imperfect collisions can bloom something meaningful. During the exhibition of Plastic Long Live, I was surprised by the amount of audience willing to comment on the message board at the end. It showed that many people want to contribute to transforming our current consumption pattern of plastic-made materials. Some left comments about the plastic issue itself, others shared poetry inspired by the exhibition. The most impressive one was a drawing of a huge blue whale with sentences about environmental protection written inside. I was deeply moved. It became clear that everyone has something to say on this topic, and everyone is capable of playing a vital role in the process. What's more, it sounds like audience did not mind the imperfection within the project. My friend, after viewing the exhibition, said to me, "This might not be the most polished work, but it reminded me of how I could switch my pattern of using plastic." Now I understand that sustainability doesn't require us to be perfect, although we can. It just asks us to start. If I wait until everything is ready or flawless, I might never take the first step. I might never start my individual project to spread meaningful thoughts and advocacy. So, our sugaring plastic didn't become the next big invention, but the whole exploration of mine reminded me that real change doesn't always start with perfection. Sometimes it starts with a sweet attempt that mixes science with honesty, failure with creativity, and even poetry with plastic. Maybe this is the sweet solution we often miss. Not just a better material, but a better mindset that embraces our imperfection. A sweet start is still a real step. Thank you.